Steve Cooper has been sacked by Leicester City, and so today we're going to have a little chat about it, my thoughts on it, what I think the reasons were behind it, was I originally a fan of the decision, and what do I think is next for my football club? I'm also very intrigued to hear your thoughts, especially if you are not a Leicester fan, because so far on social media, the discourse is so varied between what Leicester fans think and what every other football fan thinks. Similar to when Claudio Ranieri got sacked after he won us the Premier League. Nobody outside of Leicester fans seemed to understand why the decision was made and why we got rid of him. Similar with Brendan Rodgers. A lot of people didn't understand why we got rid of him, even though he was taking us down. This seems to be the third of those, and once again, the general football fan doesn't quite have the information that they need. So, what are my thoughts? Well, Cooper has gone. He lasted about 12 games in charge, had a couple of games in the Cup as well. Pretty much, it's sad, but understandable. And here are the reasons why. I think Cooper, as a person, is great. Very, very respectful, very mindful, understanding of club and city culture and things like that, fans' wishes, those kind of things. He actually got the club to do an open, ticketed but still open event with fans where people could ask questions to him at the very beginning of the season, just after he came in to become the manager, to sort of, obviously he's managed Forest before, one of our rivals, and so some fans are not happy with that. And so he wanted to have this open Q&A session where people could write in questions and he could maybe quash some rumours and get rid of some frustrations and worries that some fans may have, get a chance to meet some of the supporters of the club. This is really cool because you don't normally see those kind of things happen. And in all of his original interviews and stuff when he became manager, he was talking about trying to get to grips with what the city and the fan base and the club is all about. Obviously, he knows of it, considering how closely he's been with Leicester in terms of general football vibes in the last few years, being Forest manager, being against us and things like that. So he obviously knows of us. He's not coming in from a different country and things like that. But you do need those nuances when you become a manager of a club. For example, a lot of Tottenham fans were frustrated with some of the stuff that Ange was saying when he was talking about beating Man City when it would potentially mean that Arsenal would win the league if Spurs beat City, and that some of the fans would prefer their team to have lost in order for their rival to not win. And Ange was just like, I understand that rivalry is a big thing, but I'm here to manage the club. We need to win, right? So sometimes you need those club historicals. And Cooper came across in a very, very good way in that regard. And he didn't big himself up to be this guy that everything is changing now I'm here. Let's see what you've worked on under Maresca and previous managers, what the squad is like, and then I'll try and add some of my own knowledge and thoughts into this process going forward. Fair, right? You can't ask much more of a manager. Was he the right man for the job? Well, in the summer, we obviously were expecting a big, hefty 10-plus point deduction, potentially, going into this season because of breaking PSR rules and things like this. So, by all accounts, through some of the most respected journalists that there are, especially John Percy, who is basically the GOAT of Midlands journalism when it comes to football, Graham Potter was a big target and has been numerous times for the club. He was in the final set of people that we were potentially going to get in the summer. However, some issues, one of which being the possibility of this unannounced, undecided, unknown total of points that would potentially be deducted, sort of stopped some people from being as interested in the job and definitely saying yes. And so Cooper was left as the guy that the club chose. Now, what we've heard since his sacking is that Kuntop, now chairman of the club, wasn't actively as involved in that appointment and apparently wasn't super happy with it. And it was left down to John Rudkin and these kind of slightly lower down but senior board members. Now, the sacking has come from the very top, literally. And so, does that mean that Rudkin, who is like our director of football kind of thing, a lot of the fan base don't like him because of some of the decisions he's made, his strugglings with transfers and contracts and stuff over the years. Is he now in the firing line as well? Because Top is now going to think that he didn't do his job that well. And one of the reasons maybe we didn't get Potter in before was, again, rumoured that there would maybe be a change in director of football and Rudkin's role would either cease to exist for him or he'd be moved into a different position. Maybe. So, Cooper was basically the one left from the options because others were wanting to wait until the points deduction decision was made and things like that, and we didn't have time. So, you have to give him credit for taking on the opportunity knowing there was a massive chance that we were getting 10 plus points deducted. Now, we did manage to escape that point deduction through a legal loophole of basically using the Premier League's rules against them. So basically, we broke the rules. We did sort of maybe cheat, although I'm not sure if it's cheating if it's like not fully intentional. I don't think we went into relegation and stuff like that, spending more, knowing that we'd be able to get out of it if this became a problem. But either way, we did break the rules, but we got away with it because the rules worked against themselves. If we had known that that was going to be the case, would we have got Potter in the summer? Who knows? Himself, David Moyes, Carlos Corberan, and Ruud van Nistelrooy are the four main names that are being bandied about right now. The club have said that they want to get an appointment done this week. So we haven't heard any additional news today after Cooper's sacking yesterday. However, those names are all being heavily linked right now, and it looks like it would be unlikely that anyone outside of those four would come in. So, do I think that Cooper deserved to be sacked? And if so, why? Probably at this point. And it's sad for a couple of reasons. One, as I said before, he seems like a great guy. Unfortunately, that doesn't make you a great manager, but he came across really, really well. He didn't help himself at times, though. Some games, we were clearly just trying to emulate Maresca's playstyle from last season. He didn't come in with any of his own tactics, or if he did, they were non-existent. You could not see what a Steve Cooper style of play was most likely supposed to be. It basically seemed like we were emulating Maresca ball, but not at the same level. The players were apparently not happy with this and are one of the reasons why he got the sack, because Top went in and spoke to the players before and after the game. Senior players not happy with it, and seems like that was the final straw for him. Some of his starting 11s, most of his starting 11s in fact, thinking about it, don't make sense. We're playing Wilfred Ndidi, a defensive-minded midfielder who is great at tackling and physicality. He's never had good passing, he's never had good dribbling, and his shooting has been horrific ever since he joined the club. What, like, I don't even know at this stage, 7 years ago? Something like that? Maybe more? So why is he playing him as a number 10 in basically every game? It doesn't make any sense. He's not creative, he's not a goal scorer, he doesn't have the technical ability to play that role, yet he's being played there most weeks. Mind-blowing. Especially when we have other players that he has name-dropped as saying how good they are. For example, Will Alves, a young player coming through from like the under-21s and the youth academy. He's praised him numerous times and said that he'll get minutes this season. But yet he's playing a defensive mid over him, even when our other attacking mids are injured or suspended. He's not even getting a spot on the bench. So you don't help yourself when you say these things and then go against them. His substitutions, also baffling at times. He, quote, said that Mavadidi's race had been run in one game when he took him off instead of other players that were performing significantly worse. He has refused to start players like Ricardo Pereira for like the first 8 games or something like that in the Premier League. He didn't start him despite him being one of the best players at the club. His refusal to start Abdul Fatawu. Bizarre. His lineup decisions in playing Jordan Ayew in positions where he just didn't make sense. Keeping him on the pitch for 90 minutes instead of subbing him off for someone more direct and attacking when we're chasing a game. Nobody could understand what he was seeing that we weren't. And the problem is, he didn't explain himself afterwards. Like in a post-match interview, there would never really be the explanation for why this player didn't come on or why this player started and didn't get subbed off, even though everybody is questioning in it. And that's frustrating from a fan's perspective, because if a manager details their tactical nous and plan as to why this decision was made, even if you don't fully agree with it, you can be like, okay, I understand. That's what he was going for. But when the explanation just is, oh yeah, he's quite good, I'll play him. It's not very insightful, and it doesn't bring you much confidence as a fan in the manager and their decision making. I think this is one of the key things that some of the players probably had an issue with as well. He has been in confrontations with Yannick Vestergaard, banned him from training with the squad. Argumentative with Harry Winks as well. Dropped him at one point. Has barely played Vestergaard, barely played Ricky P, barely played Fatawu, or started him at least. Mavididi being benched even though he should be... He's playing a number 10 in El Canous on the left wing so that he can play Ndidi as an attacking mid when you could just put your number 10 as a number 10 and play your left winger at left wing. Bizarre. So that combined with the fact that he never seemed proactive. And so in some games, I think if we had made our subs earlier or better subs, we could have got more points out of the games. I think of Villa at home, and we were just screaming for subs to be made in like the 60th minute, something like that. And so many other managers, that's when they do it, or even earlier. I can't think really of a proactive sub that Steve Cooper made in his tenure here at the club. But that game in particular really frustrated me because everyone could see that we needed to change the system and the players that were on the pitch. Something wasn't quite clicking. We needed some, like, just directness. And he dithered and waited too long to make the subs. And in the time frame where the vast majority of managers would make their substitutions, you've got from the 60th to the 70th minute. A lot will go at this end, the 60th, and then you've got half an hour for those subs to come on and make a difference. He is on this end of the spectrum, 70th or later. And what happened in that Villa game? We conceded here, in the middle of that. So if he had done what he needed to do earlier, instead of waiting, maybe we wouldn't have conceded that goal to John Duran. Who knows? And that has been a common problem. Substitutions poor, too late, incorrect choices, starting lineups not making sense, randomly players being played in the wrong positions or not utilising the players properly. It's frustrating. So as much as I like Cooper as a man, as I said multiple times, he seems great. and the way that he tried to connect with the fans and the culture despite having this Nottingham Forest past was respectable. But the lack of his own tactics, poor decision making when it comes to choosing the players and substitutions and things like that, not really having game plans in most games. We conceded the first goal in, I think, 10 out of 11 games in the Prem under him. The one positive, I think you could say, we've only kept one clean sheet. We've only failed to score in one game. That is a positive for a promoted team. And a lot of people will look at it and say, oh, you have been promoted. What do you expect? To be like 8th in the league? No. But we expect a manager to take control of things. We have got some points this season due to individual moments and brilliance, not due to tactics or anything like that. For example, Harry Winks said in his post-match interview after we scored against Forest in a game that we lost, the only reason we scored was because we were playing Maresca's style of play. In the game that we won against Southampton with a last-minute goal, Jordan Ayew, from a corner, Winks and Ayew, it was his corner and Ayew scored. Winks also said they just basically thought, screw it, let's try this. In the moment decision. It wasn't a tactic, it wasn't planned. Players themselves made a decision that led to the goal to get us the points. So that can't keep happening. And fans of other teams are looking at it and thinking, oh, you've got some points, you're doing okay in the table, you've scored an okay amount of goals. They aren't watching our games. They can't be. Because otherwise you would see what we're all seeing with the decision making, with the lack of tactics, relying on individual brilliance, and alienating part of the fan base. Which is actually the opposite of what I was thinking he would do with how he started his time at the club. So do I think that he deserved to be sacked? Sadly, I think probably yes. I think his time had come. Because nothing has been improving at all. Nothing whatsoever. I think the timing of it is a bit odd. I don't know why you wouldn't have done it during the international break. Because a 2-1 loss to Chelsea isn't actually that bad. And for a chunk of that game, we weren't awful. We were actually as good as them, if not a little bit better, for a chunk of the game. So to get rid of him after that is interesting when you could have done it and had a full international break to get a manager in and go from there. Unless the managers we're looking at weren't ready. And maybe now they are. And that's how we're confident that we'll get someone in by the end of the week. Maybe. So, what do I think is next? Potter has been admired by the club for a long period of time. We've tried to get him in at least twice. And the question is it third time's the charm? The England job is now gone. So if he was holding out for that, he needs to get another job now. He's turned down other opportunities. In theory, waiting for England. He's not got that now. He needs to get back in the game. Otherwise, his stock is just going to fall and fall and fall if he's not managing for years. So I think he could get more out of the squad than Cooper. I would like Graham Potter. I would have liked him previously when we went for him. And I wanted him in the summer, and it didn't happen. That is my choice. Carlos Corberan would be a good appointment. He's also being linked. He was linked in the summer. However, he would have cost us more to obtain, which when we had the PSR issues going on, it was thought of that maybe we couldn't really afford to pay his break or release clause. So that's another option. Van Nistelrooy is another one. He's been linked with a ton of clubs right now. An absolute ton of clubs. He beat us twice in the space of about 10 days in his brief stint as Man United manager. Has that bumped him up in the list of candidates for this opportunity? The worry is he doesn't have much in terms of experience managing in this country. His only experience is that Man United short interim manager tenure. Before that, he's had PSV. And he is highly rated, but it would be more of a risk. And the other big name linked is David Moyes. I'm not 100% sure how much more Moyes gets out of the squad than Cooper. I know that he has had good periods of management. Everton, he achieved some really good things in getting them up the table, and his utilisation of someone like Fellaini was amazing. West Ham, it ended badly. It was not good. For the last season and a half in the Premier League, it was really bad. The football was terrible, and their performances weren't you can understand if the football isn't great, but it's getting you results, but it wasn't really doing that. They did, however, get the European trophy, and the season before that obviously had a good finish in the league. How much more do I think he can get than Cooper? I'm not sure. However, I do still think it would be better because he has proved over the years that he can be a better manager than Cooper. It would be the least exciting option out of the four. However, I sadly think it's probably the most realistic. I would like Potter. Do I think it will happen, though? I think it really depends on how sour negotiations got at the very end in the summer. Because he was one of the final three candidates, and it got close. It was in advanced talk stages, and then broke down. Has that soured his thoughts of potentially coming in at any point? Who knows? But I feel like with this crazy difficult run of games we've got up to the new year, it didn't look like it was going to get better under Cooper. So bringing someone else in, giving them time to assess the squad ahead of a January transfer window is always better than getting to New Year and then sacking. So I think that's good. I think the players will have a bit of a boost because they, by all the reports, weren't really buying into Cooper's tactics and stuff because there weren't really many. So I'm really intrigued to see where this goes. And maybe I'll make a video in a few days' time, hopefully talking about the new manager and my initial thoughts, my expectations, and hopes for us going forward. The sole aim for this season is to stay in the league. It's as simple as that. So, do you take the punt on someone like Van Nistelrooy when you don't know whether he will definitely be able to do that? I don't know. Obviously, there's no absolute guarantee, even if you take Moyes, that he'd keep you up. But it feels a lot safer, doesn't it? So, we've seen a little bit of ruthlessness from the owners. Are we now going to see pragmatism or a little bit of risk? We'll see in a few days.